Who's this? Hello? Hey there, is that Adam? That is indeed. Can I ask who's calling? It's your agent, Richard. My agent? I didn't even know that I had an agent. Well, yeah, you do, and it's me. Anyway, just thought I'd phone you to check up on you and see how you're doing. Well, that's kind of you, checking up on me after 2 seasons. You've already been managing for 2 seasons? Yeah, I have. If you're my agent, shouldn't you already know that? Of course I knew that. I'm just messing with you. Right. Well, anyway, what was it you wanted? Oh, yeah, there's a job that's come up. I was wondering if you want to interview for it. Well, the timing's not great. I've just totally revamped this Roma squad, ready for this 3rd season. You're managing Roma? I did not know that. How do you not know who I'm managing? Look, that's not important. Do you want to interview for this job or not? Well, who's it for? I saw that Real Madrid were looking for a manager. Be interested in that. Tottenham as well. Wales. What? Wales. Wales are looking for a manager. Why would I want to manage Wales? I'm hunting for glory here. Wales aren't going to be winning a World Cup in the next 20 years. Just think about it, would you? I'm getting a pretty sweet bonus if you take the job. Ah, now this makes sense. Yes, hello, welcome on in to Livestreams Sports here for another episode of Glory Hunter on Football Manager 22. Season 3 of Glory Hunter begins today. If you've missed any of the previous episodes, we all have it's a lovely organised playlist on my YouTube channel, so go and check it out. As I say, Season 3 is starting today. We're still here with Roma. As I mentioned in our introduction, I was talking to my agent, apparently. We have revamped this team ready for this season. This is the first year that we've spent more money than we've brought in. I know, it's hard to believe because I've spent a lot of money doing this, but it's the first year that I say we've spent more than we've brought in. We've had a lot of outs and a lot of ins, and you're going to find out exactly what they are in today's episode. If it doesn't take too long, there might be a game. If not, the next episode will have games, but there's lots to talk about. I'm just going to get straight into the transfers because you know how we did last year, finishing in 3rd position. If you don't know that, go and watch the videos and you'll see how we did. And when you're there, hit that subscribe button as well if you're new so you don't miss any more episodes of this 11 a.m. Monday to Friday. I'm going to talk you through our transfer window chronologically. We're now at the end of August. That's when the season starts. Transfer deadline day is just a few days' time. I don't think we'll be having any more ins or outs. So you probably won't have a deadline day special this season, unlike previous years. But I'm going to talk you through chronologically everything that happened. Instead of what I normally do, just go through all the outs and all the ins. I'll do it in the order that it happens so you can see what the train of thought was. And there's a few big names that have come in. I'll say that. And to be honest, there's a few big names that have went out. So we'll start off basically with last season's transfers, if that makes sense. Valentino Lazaro, the right wing back. We use him as he can also play as a winger as well if need be. We signed him on loan last year with the mandatory fee to buy him. So we paid that mandatory fee this year. £5.5 million for a player who did not play well for us last year. I was kind of disappointed with him. To be honest, if I had the chance not to have signed him permanently, I wouldn't have. But he was arriving anyway, and that kind of did, though, fill a need at right back because Odriozola, who was on loan at us last year, isn't here. We didn't take up the optional fee we had with Odriozola. So Lazaro and Desciglio were basically our only 2 right back options. I mean, I saw that and how Lazaro played last year. I thought that's somewhere we're going to have to try to improve. Perhaps further into the window we did, but the first person who arrived at the club, the first bit of transfer business right at the end of June when the season finished, was Lazaro signed here permanently. We then had a lot of people leaving on frees, just kind of squad players who I wasn't wanting to re-sign. But one of those players who left was Nicolas Pepe. We did sell him. We sold him for £4 million to Fiorentina. So we've lost a little bit of money on Pepe, but we've managed to get him to Fiorentina, get his wages off the wage bill as well. And he, as I say, is now at Fiorentina. Never really hit the ground running, as unfortunately. And now, with the way we're currently playing, spoilers, I may or may not have changed the system a little bit. Obviously, we did some stuff at the end of last year. We're no longer playing with two wingers, and Pepe doesn't really fit in if you're not going to play with wingers. So he's away to Fiorentina for £4 million. On that same day, the first day of the transfer window, all the stuff that you've organised before the window open actually happens, and this was one of them. Again, you might not see a lot of them, but it's Oliver Pedersen, Danish 16-year-old attacking and central midfield player. Those stats are not bad for somebody who's only 16 years of age. Could develop into something pretty nice. I think a 4.5-star potential ability is a bit kind of selling him short. I think he could be a 16 years old. Those stats are pretty amazing, in my opinion. He's got a lot of good. His flair's 19, bravery 16. He's got very good physicals, which are improving as well. Determination 15 is important as well. He's got good off the ball. I'll be honest, I think he'll turn into a good player, but you probably won't get to see him. But I just thought I'd mention it because he came in. Another player who came in, I'm surprised we didn't have our devilish-looking friend mention this in the intro, is Andre Kramerich. He came in for free. We signed him from Hoffenheim, I say at the end of his contract. He scored 14 goals last year, 16 the year before that. He still looks like a very, very good striker. He's slightly declined. He's 32 years of age. You signed him on a 2-year contract. I don't imagine he'll be staying after that. But I think it's like a third, fourth choice coming off the bench. He'll do pretty well. I say his technicals are slightly declined. Physicals will definitely start to decline. But his finishing was 16 when it arrived, now down to 15. Looks a very solid option up front. So he arrived, as did Christian Jakic here, the ball-winning midfielder. He can play central midfield or defensive midfield. Just had a few more options in central midfield. I felt as if we were, just with a couple of injuries, we're a little bit light in central midfield last year. So I thought, try and find a nice option that will be happy as a backup. I've told him he's going to be a regular starter. He's not. He'll be happy as a backup. Nice, nice physical stats. Defensively solid. Marking 15, tackling 15, positioning 15. He's got good work rate as well. He's not going to be the playmaker, but he's going to break up the play. And I think he's going to be very good at that. We paid £4 million for him from Dinamo Zagreb. They'd paid £1 million for him a couple of years ago. He was on loan at Eintracht Frankfurt. But last year, particularly for Dinamo Zagreb, 39 appearances, and he got 2 goals, 8 assists, 7.3 average rating. Did pretty well. I think he's a pretty good signing to be there as a squad player in midfield. But for me, our most exciting signing of the start of the window, one that had been organised for a little while, is Kaique here, the Brazilian centre-back, 19 years of age. You can see he can play as a ball winner, no nonsense, really can do anything. We signed him for £15 million from Brazil. You can see the last 3 years for the Brazilian seasons. He's been over a 7 average rating, gets a couple of goals a season normally. Look at that, 16 marking. His tackling's 14, heading 14, positioning 15. They're important defensive stats in my mind. When you look at his first touch being 14 and his passing being 14, he definitely can be that ball player as well. His vision being 15 as well means he can get the pass. I'm excited to use him. That's Kaique. That was the big sign. And remember, we're not allowed to sign one non-EU player a season. He's our non-EU player this year. And it's got to pay off because Cabral last season did not pay off. Physically as well, he's got good jumping reach. His pace is okay. See, nothing below a 12 over on that side. He looks a really, really good centre-half. Maybe could do with growing a little bit. He's only 6 foot, but I think he'll do well for us. So he's going to be a very important player in our team this season. So we continued moving our way through July, and a week later, Brian Cristante left. Now, I know what you're thinking. We signed a central midfield player because we were short in central midfield. Yes, and then Brian Cristante took a huff and wanted to leave, and he was 28 years of age, and I thought, he doesn't normally start for us. Why not try and bring in some money? His stats are really, really good. He never played quite as well as his stats suggested, even though, if I can get off this stage, as I say, he never really played as well as his stats suggested. You can see 22 and 24 appearances, half of them being starts, never above a 7 average rating. We sold him to Leeds for £18 million, and I think for a player of his age in this position in the squad, that's not bad at all. That was followed by Nicolas Otamendi leaving as well, so we brought in Kaike to play at centre back, so we could do with getting rid of one, especially one of Otamendi's age. We brought him in for £2 million to act as a kind of squad option to cover at centre back. He really, because he's 6.5, did not play well last season, so we took a loss, sold him to Leganés in Spain for £1 million, and Nicolas Otamendi left. And a couple of days later, we made our big move for a right back. I mentioned that I wasn't comfortable with Lazaro and Desciglio and maybe Davide Santon being our options in the right back position. So we made a move, a big move in my opinion, and we signed Alexis Salamakers from AC Milan. It only cost us £21 million. You can see he's been a starter for them the last 2 years. His average rating has not been great for them, but £21 million to bring in. You can see his stats are very, very good in terms of his physical stats are good. Going forward, he's very good as well. Crossing a 13, dribbling 13, first touch 14. Defensively, he's okay. Marking a 12, tackling a 13. Positioning a 13, but he's got good work rate and good teamwork as well as good determination and stamina. So he's really going to be able to get up and down that wing comfortably, and we're not going to have to, take off the wide fullbacks like we were having to in previous years because they're struggling with their stamina. So that was our big move in the market for a right back, and we signed Salamakers. Say it cost us £21.5 million. He knows the league. I think he'll do well for us. We're paying him £130,000 a week. It's a lot, but he could be a star out on that right-hand side for us. That signing of Salamakers meant we could sell another one of our right-back options. So obviously we just signed Lazaro. He couldn't go anywhere, but Desciglio was happy to leave. 30 years of age, I was happy to let him go, to be honest. And making £4 million from Lille, we hardly lost any money. Obviously we signed him from Juventus at the start of our Glory Hunter save as an option in right back. Because he's not really played too much for us. When he hasn't played well. He's had a few assists to his name, but making most of our money back selling them to Lille. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. The signing of Salamakers meant we could obviously get rid of Desciglio. He was on quite a lot of money as well. Not as much as Salamakers, to be fair, but it wasn't anywhere near as good. So we've improved our right back options by bringing in Salamakers and getting rid of Desciglio. I think it's certainly worth it. Obviously, we had brought in Kramerich as an option up front, which meant we did have 5 strikers. Yeah, 5 strikers on the team. And it made me think, we probably don't need 5 strikers on the team. Somebody who wanted to leave and had wanted to leave for quite a while was Artur Cabral. Remember, we signed him last year. In fact, probably the first season, it was January, and he couldn't play because we couldn't sign that number of non-EU players. When you don't read the rules, it's quite difficult. You see, he had 17 finishing. He should have been really good. However, he never really hit the ground running for us. He only got to play 8 games last year and he hasn't scored a goal for us. We paid £18 million for him. He was not good. So he's been loaned out to Porto, and the rules are that they have an optional fee to pay £14 million at the end of the loan. We'll see how he does, but it means he's off the wage bill. He's away out at Porto, and it's one less non-EU player in the squad as well, because there's weird rules in Italy about non-EU players. So this one's a big one. Nicolo Zaniolo did not want to stay at the club. He requested a transfer, and to be honest, I felt as if I had to grant it to him, because he was making everyone else pretty unhappy at the club. He had a year left on his deal, and he was refusing to sign a new one. So I thought we have to cash in on him. And that's exactly what we've done. Yet again, selling more of our players to Tottenham. Remember, they bought Isco, they bought Kluivert, and they've now also bought Zaniolo. And it's £50 million that we've got for Zaniolo. You can see he's had very successful seasons with us. Double-digit goals both years. And he's now away to Tottenham for £50 million. Now that left a big hole in the team. Obviously, he plays on the wing, but also in midfield as well. As I mentioned, we were starting to change our system. He was playing as an attacking midfielder for us, which we didn't really have a lot of options behind him at attacking midfield, and certainly the one less midfield option made it a little bit more difficult. But we did have £50 million in the bank now from this sale, which certainly helped us. While we were looking for another midfield option to replace Zaniolo, Marash Kumbula was sold as well. He again was not happy at the club, wanted to leave, wasn't playing enough games. And with the players we brought in, with Gijo as a centre-back, Zagadou, Romagnoli, Kaike, Kumbula was not needed. So Kumbula was sold to Mainz for £12 million. You can see, didn't play well last year, the year before. To be honest, didn't play that well when he was on loan either. So obviously we had the mandatory fee that had to be done. It was already in the game, remember, for last year. Hence he was bought for 18 million, but sold for 12, and that brought a little bit more money in. But it did also bring up the idea, we got 4 centre-backs in the team now. Could we maybe do with some cover at centre-back? Maybe a midfielder who can drop in if needed. And with that taken into consideration, and the sale of Zaniolo and the players we had available to perhaps cover his position further up the field, maybe if we brought in another central or holding midfield player that could also play centre-back, that could be 2 birds, 1 stone. We looked to see who was transfer listed, and we found this man, Declan Rice. He can do all the things I was just describing. He can play as the holding midfielder and also play in central midfield if needed. He can cover at centre back if we get short in centre back. I don't need to describe to you how good Declan Rice is. You can see his stats there. You've seen what he does in real life. You'll all know in the game he's brilliant. And West Ham had him on the transfer list because he'd asked to go on the transfer list. 24 years of age. It meant because we'd got rid of Cabral, we could bring in another non-EU player, or so I thought. I checked the rules, and it turns out loaning Cabral out didn't give us another non-EU slot. And we were just about to sign the Englishman, Declan Rice, and I thought, we're not going to be able to register him in the squad. What are we going to do? But thankfully for us, he also has Irish nationality, doesn't he? And Ireland, still being in the EU, that granted him EU citizenship, which allowed him to be an EU player for us and not a non-EU player, so he doesn't count towards our non-EU allowance. That was very lucky. I know what you'll all be thinking how much have I paid for him. £50 million up front. It'll go up to 75 depending on clauses, but the money from Zaniolo and the money from Kumbula, together with a little bit we had left over, paid for Declan Rice. So you've got to decide, is Declan Rice going to offer more to the team than Zaniolo did? Perhaps is Declan Rice going to improve the centre midfield, and Pellegrini, who we've now moved to attacking midfield, is the drop from Zaniolo to Pellegrini greater or lesser than the improvement to the midfield that Declan Rice offers further back? That's what you've got to decide. In my opinion, I think the team is stronger now with Declan Rice in there than Zaniolo, but we'll have to find out this season. But he was our big marquee signing. We thought Salamakers was going to be the big marquee signing, but Declan Rice is now a member of this Roma team. He does have a sell-out clause, a sell-on clause, a release clause in his contract. If someone wants to meet that, that's fine. It's something like £90 million, and maybe when we move to another team, we might meet that and buy him from Roma. But I'm very excited to see what Declan Rice can do for us in that midfield. So obviously we now signed Salamakers, and we have Lazaro to play on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, we have Calafiore returning from his loan. We have Christensen. We have Spinazzola. Davide Santon wasn't needed, so he's out on loan to Pisa, the 32-year-old Italian full-back. Again, just he's been a backup for us basically since he was here. We sent him out on loan to Karabag last year. Just need to get him off the wage bill. But a day after, Spinazzola was sold. Now hear me out. Christensen has arrived at the club in last January and became the first choice left back. Outstanding performances so far. Spinazzola was the backup last year, but Calafiore, the young man who was our first choice left back the first season when Spinazzola was injured, Calafiore has returned back from his loan, and he is now going to be our backup left back. 2 young left backs in the squad. We don't need Spinazzola, at least in my opinion. He was 30 years of age. we could sell him. And he's been sold to Porto for £12.5 million. You can see he's performed okay when he's been playing for us, but he's certainly going to be second or third choice, or he was, so we sold him, brought in £12 million. That did, however, worry me, because I thought 2 right backs, 2 left backs now in the squad. Any injuries, you're maybe a bit thin in one of those positions. So I looked to find somebody who could play both sides, slightly younger than Desciglio, who's now left, and Davide Santon, who's gone, and Spinazzola, who's gone, all of them in their 30s. And we found Diogo Dalot from Manchester United. We paid £12 million, so the same amount of money as Spinazzola was sold for, we've paid for Dalot. And personally, I think I prefer Dalot. Can play both sides more comfortably than Spinazzola. 6 years younger, has space to improve and progress if he wants to. Can also play, as I say, further up. I know Spinazzola could do that as well, but I think he's a very good option to act as a third choice left or right back. He's pretty good. He's got good defensive stats, good going forward. His physicals are good as well. He's got a bit of height to him, and he's happy to play as a fringe player, so he's not going to complain. Spinazzola was there as a regular starter, as an important player. He's going to complain about not playing. Dalot would be happy about not playing. So that's the last signing we made. Spent £12 million on a basically a third choice full back on either side. Just, when I say that, it's a lot of money doing that, but it replaced Spinazzola and Desciglio and Davide Santon. So with all that being said, this is the way the team now looks. I'll be honest, it's been that long since I played the end of last season. I've spent several days doing this off-season, so I'm completely forgotten what formation we were playing toward the end. I know I started changing stuff about after we kind of fell away, but this is a formation we're going to go with at the moment, and I'm sure this is the one we were doing at the end of last year. I apologise if it's not. It's the 4-1-2-1-2, the 4-4-2 diamond, and this would be our strongest 11 in my opinion. I did want to find a new goalkeeper to replace Rui Patricio, the 35-year-old goalkeeper, but I couldn't really find someone that I wanted to replace him with. So he's still going to be our first choice keeper, declining physically, but still good handling at one-on-ones, good reflexes, good communication and aerial reach, good positioning. Decisions are okay. I'm fine with him in our goal. Ahead of him, we've got Romagnoli at centre-back, as he has been for the last couple of years, and Kayke is playing alongside him. Kayke being right-footed, Romagnoli being left-footed. It's going to work well as a centre-back partnership, both being ball-playing centre-backs. Obviously, our width's going to have to come from our full-backs, and that's what's going to happen here. Complete wing-backs on both sides, Salamakers on the right, and Christensen on the left. Moving forward into midfield, Declan Rice is going to start as our ball-winning midfielder, sat there in the defensive midfield position, which means Veretout is able to move forward from that defensive midfield position where he so often played for us, and he'll play part of the midfield too, Veretout, alongside Camavinga, who, remember, is still here and on loan for the second season. Remember, it's a 2-year loan we've got him for. Pellegrini moves from his position in central midfield further forward to play attacking midfield, and up front, Tammy Abraham gets partnered by Benjamin Sesko. Remember, Sesko we signed last year. I was really looking forward to using him. He didn't really get to play too much for us last year. Says 27 games, but only half of those were starts. He did get 9 goals. He played pretty well. So he's going to partner Tammy Abraham up front. Abraham, who, remember, struggled last year until we went to play with 2 up front, and then at the end of the year started scoring a lot more goals. So hopefully he does that again this year. Looking at the bench, you'd have Zagadou typically. He's behind me at the moment with an injury. He's out for another 2 weeks. But Zagadou is a centre-back option, as well as Gigot. Lazaro and Calafiore is the backup wing-backs / full-backs, and Dalot is the backup behind them. Central midfield, you've got Jakic you can play in there. Tolisso and Dani Ceballos on the bench as well. And going further forward, we don't have a huge amount of cover at attacking midfield. Kramerich can play there, who's currently injured. Jan Thielman, who's one of our other strikers, can also play there if need be. And then we've got Cancellieri, who's somebody you probably don't know. He's been out on loan the last couple of years, most recently in Serie C at Como, where he got 11 goals. He's going to be one of our backup striking options as well. But that is a squad at the moment. It's pretty small. There's only 23 players in our squad just now. And something I would like to do before the end of the window which you'll probably find out in the next episode if it happens, is to try to get a backup attacking midfield option behind Pellegrini, because after Pellegrini we don't have a huge number of options in there. That's the thing I was mentioning with letting Zaniolo go. If Zaniolo was playing in attacking mid, his backup was Pellegrini, but now Pellegrini is the first choice, so we don't really have a backup. The options are Tolisso, sorry, not Christensen, Tolisso or Thielman, and they're not great. Nothing against them, but they're not really on the same level as Pellegrini. So if I can bring somebody in, we don't have a lot of money. If we look at the club finances, we're only got 12 million in the bank and we only have $500,000 as a transfer budget. So maybe bring somebody in on loan, as we do have some wage budget available. Say, not last season we were spending £2.7 million a week as wages. It's 2.3 this year. We've brought the wage budget right down, getting rid of players like Gareth Bale and Pepe and Otamendi and all the people earning lots of money who weren't really playing. Some silly signs in my first 2 years, I admit that. We've changed it and we've tried to get ourselves a much more solid team and one that can work together, as opposed to trying to get these fancy individuals. Get a team to work together. So I say the aim is to try to get a backup attacking midfield player at some point in the next 5 days. You can see the transfer window closes very soon. Just a backup attacking midfield player in behind Pellegrini. You can see from the star ratings, I know star ratings aren't everything, but we're much better than previous years. Previous years we had a lot of 3-star players and a lot of 2.5-star players. This year, 2.5 stars Patricio, 3 stars Kaiki, and the rest are 3.5s or better. We've got a good squad. I think it's probably the strongest squad we've ever had. And if you look at SerieA and the season preview, we are currently 4th favourite. It's the highest up we've ever been. We were 5th favourite last year, and we were even further down the year before that. And you can see from the right-hand side, key players. It's the first time we've ever had 2 key players in the top section of that without having to scroll down. Declan Rice being the 5th most key player, and Abraham being the 7th. You can see Declan Rice is actually in the dream team as a centre-back. Maybe he'll end up going further back there at some point for us. So quickly touch on some fixtures. We're not going to play a game today. It's been a very long episode already. We can see we've won all our friendlies apart from the draw against Napoli. But you can look at the start of this season, and that is one heck of a tough start. And I think I'm going to show you all 4 of those games over the next 2 episodes, because that could be almost season defining already this early on in the year. Lazio and Milan, the first 2 games before transfer deadline day, and then Inter and Juventus. You couldn't ask for a much tougher start to the season. So we'll come back in the next episode. We'll show you Lazio, Milan, and any transfer goings-ons that might happen, but I don't think anything's going to happen. The only thing, as I mentioned, possibly a backup attacking midfield player. If you have enjoyed this episode, I know there's not been a huge amount of action, and there's been a lot of me talking and trying to explain things, but I want to show you I'm not just a silly person that's going about signing Gareth Bale on £150,000 a week for no reason. Sometimes I do actually think tactically, and this is what's happened this year. This is the year we're going to go and get a trophy here at Roma. Let's get them all if we can. Maybe not the Champions League. We're in the Champions League this year. It could be tough. But let's get the 2 Italian ones, the Cup and the League, and then we can leave and go somewhere else. So I'll say the next episode is Lazio and Milan. So if you have enjoyed this, please do leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're right at the start of a new season. Perfect time to join the 11am Sports Club if you haven't already. And until the next one, we'll see you then.